more impatient than most for Theresa May to go ahead and trigger Article 50 once and for all. He joins me now live from Strasbourg. Good morning to you, Mr. Farage. Are you disappointed not to see Article 50 being triggered today?
Well, it's been 9 months now since that joyous morning on June the 24th when we realised that Brexit had won the referendum. 9 months, a full gestation, and still no delivery. Yeah, of course I'm disappointed. I mean, I'm pleased that we're through all these endless hurdles, but I'm just a bit surprised that Nicola Sturgeon's announcement should have put the Prime Minister off. I really am. And now that we're delaying the triggering of Article 50, what it means is that we will miss the summit of European leaders on the 6th of April, at which Brexit could practicably have been discussed. So therefore, we've kicked it into the long grass until May.
Do you think the Prime Minister's lost her nerve? What do you think the real reason is for this delay until the end of the month?
Well, I would like to have seen Article 50 triggered in July of last year, because if that had happened, there would have been no High Court, no Supreme Court, no votes in the Commons and the Lords. So I think there's been hesitancy all the way through, and we're still seeing the same thing. And I'm concerned about the hesitancy, but I'm also concerned about some of the concessions that appear to be made already. I mean, last week in Brussels, the talk was that the British are prepared to put fisheries on the table as a bargaining chip. So, yes, I'm pleased we've cleared the hurdles, but I'm worried about the commitment of this government to actually get into line with what the British public asked for.
Well, the government have said that if they don't like the deal the EU is offered, there will be a hard Brexit. They will walk away from any deal that's offered. Would you support that, the so-called hard Brexit?
Well, I was pleased to hear that, obviously. I mean, the great thing to remember is that no deal is better than where we are today. Right now, we pay a fortune to have our businesses over-regulated, and we're prohibited from making our own trade deals in the rest of the world. So no deal is better than where we are today. What I would like to see, though, in terms of these negotiations, is a bit more imagination. You know, don't just meet people in dark corridors in Brussels. We should be out as a country campaigning in the French vineyards, campaigning at the German car plants, campaigning outside chocolate makers in Belgium. They need our markets more than we do. We should be getting businesses and workers across Europe to put pressure on their politicians. It's
quite interesting. I was talking to a German journalist who writes for Die Welt, and she was saying actually the EU is pretty much supportive of the UK. They want to give us a good deal as much as we want a good deal from them. So there is a lot of goodwill in the EU to make this as smooth as possible and get the best for both sides, because the EU relies heavily on the UK.
Yes. Yeah, look, I think there are more grounds for optimism, as I say, amongst businesses and amongst some politicians in the EU. The difficulty is going to be the head of the European Commission, Jean-Claude Juncker, and indeed the heads of the European Parliament. And perhaps the biggest obstacle that we face, you know, and we've all been thinking, would the UK Parliament ultimately get a veto? The biggest problem that we may face is that this place, the European Parliament, at the end of 2 years of negotiations, could veto the whole deal. And that's why I want the MEPs here to have massive pressure put on them by voters right across Europe who need the UK market. You know, we're so important to them, they call us Treasure Island.
Just to throw a cat amongst the pigeons, just reading through the process of what will happen now we're negotiating the exit from the EU, there is no point written in that we can't change our minds, that the UK could actually walk away from the negotiations, say actually we want to stay in the EU because what we're getting doesn't look any better than what we've actually got at the moment. Can you see that happening?
Look, we've got elections coming up in the Netherlands and in France. We've got Eurosceptic movements of the left, right and centre surging. We've got the deal with Turkey breaking down, and with the summer looming, the migrant crisis coming right up, you know, I think to the front of political discussion in Europe, let alone the problems of Italian and Greek banks. The European Union is facing a huge existential crisis. We voted, I'm very pleased to say, to leave it. If we had another referendum, the majority to leave would be a lot bigger than it was last year. So the answer is no, it is not going to happen.
You could say the UK is facing an existential crisis at the moment. We had Nicola Sturgeon yesterday announcing that she wants a second independence referendum. You campaigned hard for Brexit with the party called UKIP. We could see the UK breaking up as a result of Brexit.
Not if we have a truthful debate. The United Kingdom voted for independence. Independence from the European Union so that we can make our own laws and control our own borders.
Scotland
what Nicola
voted to
Sturgeon
stay
wants
in.
to do is to give away independence. This is not an independence referendum. The Scottish people need to be told the truth, and that is the wool is being pulled over their eyes. The SNP do not want independence. They want to be signed up to the European project. They want to be signed up to the United States of Europe. And I think once the Scottish people realise that, if there were to be a second referendum, the majority would be far bigger this time than it was back in 2014.
If they voted to leave the UK, though, where would it stop? Wales, Northern Ireland? As I said, a lot of people are saying, worst case scenario, this could be the end of the UK, and it all started with your campaign.
Well, if Nicola Sturgeon was honest and wanted to leave the EU and to leave the UK and to have an independent Scotland, I would respect that position. I wouldn't agree with it, but I would respect that position. She doesn't. She wants to sign up lock, stock and barrel to Brussels. She wants to sign a treaty that will commit Scotland to joining the euro. And I think when the Scottish people actually look at this in the cold light of day, it will be massively rejected.
Do you not feel you're missing out on all of this that you created? What's the likelihood of you running to try and be an MP again, to get involved in this? Because, as I said, these negotiations are going to take 2 years, 5 years, some people saying 10.
That is a really London-based media question. I know you all think the world begins and ends in London. Actually, the Parliament that has the most say on the Brexit process is this Parliament right here in Strasbourg. As far as the next 2 years are concerned, I'm absolutely in the right place.
OK, so you're not going to be running as an MP anytime soon. Fine. Just one, I want to ask you one thing about some breaking news we've got this morning. From the top court in Europe has actually said that employers can ban overtly religious symbols, things like headscarves. That's just come out this morning as breaking news. Just wanted to get your reaction to that.
Well, it depends whether these things are applied evenly across all religions or whether some religions get more favoured status than others. I've always personally thought that people should be able to wear a badge or an emblem of their religion. I believe in religious tolerance.
OK, Nigel Farage speaking to us live from Strasbourg. Thank you very much for your time here on Sky News Sunrise this morning.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.